everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you guys my April wrap-up. I read a total of 12 books this month, which I think is pretty good. And I'm going to share them with you. Yes, yeah, April wrap-up. Let's just dive right in. Okay, so the first book I read in April was an ebook, and that was A Vow So Bold and Deadly. This is the third book in A Curse So Dark and Lonely trilogy. And yes, the third and final book. I really liked this book. I think it's my favorite of the three. A Curse So Dark and Lonely starts off as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So Harper is taken from DC into this fantasy world, and there's a curse, there's a man, things happen, and it slowly throughout the trilogy just opens up into more characters, into all kinds of politics and magic and yada yada yada. And so yes, I really liked A Vow So Bold and Deadly. I thought it was a good conclusion to this trilogy. I liked how all of the characters' stories wrapped up, and I was very satisfied with the ending. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I just wish the one thing that is consistent, a consistent critique is I wish it had been written in third person, because there were a lot of point of views. I think there were 4 different ones in the last book, and so I just prefer third person. Just a preference. Okay, yeah, that's that. The next book I read in April was a reread, and that is Ruin and Rising. I talked about this in my March wrap-up, but essentially I wanted to reread the Shadow and Bone trilogy again in order to prepare myself for the Netflix Shadow and Bone show that came out in April. And so I reread Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm in March, and I reread Ruin and Rising in April. Yes. Again, this was probably my favorite of the 3, the last one. I usually like finales the best in trilogies. I don't know why. It's just what happens. I thought just overall her writing was the best in this one, and I just liked how all the characters developed and ended, and I liked how the note the story ended on, and it did make me cry, which is just funny because I've read this so many times, but it always makes me cry. And all I can say is that the Darkling, who's the villain in these books, is one of my favorite antagonists, like, of all time. Yeah, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was really good. So the next book that I read was, or I should say finish, was Attack on Titan Volume 39. Yes, again, as I said in my March wrap-up, I started reading this manga in March, last couple of volumes or chapters, in order to prepare myself for the end, which came out April 9th, the last book. But overall, the last chapter was my favorite, and this last volume was my favorite. So I gave it a 4 stars. Again, I don't really know how to rate these because I've never read any other manga, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but I gave it a 4 because I really liked the artwork in this volume, especially the last chapter, and I sobbed, like ugly sobbed, at the end, and all throughout this volume, let's just be honest. So yeah, I'm done talking about this. I've talked about it way too much. Yeah, we're done. So the next book I read, again reread, was 6 of Crows. Wow. Which is the first book in the Six of Crows duology. In the Grisha universe, there's the Shadow and Bone trilogy, Six of Crows duology, and the King of Scars duology. And so, yes, I had read Six of Crows 2 times before this reread, so I've read it 3 times now. And it is one of my favorite books of all time, easily. Like 5 out of 5, 1,000 out of 1,000 stars, all the stars in the world. I just love it so much, and I really enjoyed my reread, and I'm really glad I reread it, because the show, like, if you haven't read the books, you just miss so much, and I got a lot. And can I just insert that I think in either my March wrap-up or my April TBR, I mentioned like being kind of scared for the Shadow and Bone TV show, and can I just say, I loved it personally. In my opinion, it was great. I thought the cast embodied all of the characters so perfectly, and I'm so excited to see what they do with it in the future. But yeah, I love this book. I just think Lee just ticks every box, you know, like the character development, characterization, the world building, what else? I don't know, the writing, the plot. And usually I'm not a big plot person, but the plot in this is just so solid to me and executed so well. I just love it. I love this book. I really, 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 really do. I really do. So yeah. So the next book was also Crooked Kingdom, which is the last book in the duology. This was only my second time reading this, and I remember the first time I read it, right after I got it, I was kind of disappointed, and I think I even gave it a 4.5 stars when I read it. I don't know what was wrong with me. 5 out of 5. For me, the only reason why it's not my favorite rather than Six of Crows, the only reason why Six of Crows is my favorite and this one isn't, is because to me the plot felt like a teensy bit weaker, but I feel like she makes up for it with all of the character backgrounds and development and dynamics that were further explored in this. And the ending, whew, I always sob, and it really broke my heart. And but I'm very glad I reread it because I have a new appreciation for this book. It's so good. The next, like, 3 books I have to talk about are all ebooks. Yay! So one of them is The Traitor Queen, which is the second book. I think it's called the Bridge Kingdom series. I'm not sure. I was under the impression this was a trilogy, and I don't think that's correct. Yeah, no. So this is the second book after the Bridge Kingdom, which I really, really, really surprisingly loved in March. And I was looking forward to this one, and suffice it to say, it didn't quite meet my love and or expectations. I don't know. I just felt like the writing wasn't as good in this one. It was a little slow to start, and like the big climax moment was not suspenseful or climatic enough for me. I was like kind of let down. I was like, really? That's how that happened? I don't know. And there were a few scenes that were so overly dramatic that it made me laugh. And I don't think that was the purpose. But yeah, so I gave it a 4.5 out of, not a 4.5, a 4 out of 5 stars. You know, it is what it is. Do I remember anything that happened in that book? No. Which says enough. Let's move on to the next ebook. Oh goodness. I read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I have seen this book everywhere for like about a year now. Ever since it came out. Everywhere. Instagram, Book Talk, BookTube, literally everywhere. And I finally was in the mood for romance, and so I gave in and I read it. this romance follows the son of the President of the United States, fictional, obviously, and the son of like a prince, the Prince of England. And you know, just a disclaimer for like now and future reference. I never know how to rate romances because I don't read that many of them, and usually I love them. I either like am about it or I like love them. So I initially gave this a 5 stars, but then I dropped it down to 4.5 after I read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, I think, because I was like, it doesn't quite meet that, but like I don't feel like it's fair to compare a romance with a fantasy, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I gave it a 4.5 is where I've settled. I really did love it. The writing was pretty good, which surprised me. The only thing that kind of withdrew from my experience was like the political mumbo jumbo. Especially towards the beginning, I was like, there's a lot going on, and when I was reading it, I knew when my eyes were skimming the page, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm not comprehending any of this. But it wasn't that important to the plot, and I loved the end. I did cry. I never thought I would cry over the state of Texas, but I did. If you know, you know. I was happy crying. And I don't know. It was really sweet, and yeah, I love them too. Okay. The next ebook I read was The Wrath and the Dawn. Yes, I again have seen this a lot of places, and like a couple of months ago, maybe not even that long, I saw like an enemies to lovers book recommendations thing on TikTok, and it mentioned this couple, and I was like, I'm gonna have to give it a read. So I did. I enjoyed it. Wasn't my favorite duology. The writing was kind of like average to me. I did like the it's a 1001 Nights retelling, and I liked that aspect of it, and the culture that she incorporated into it. I enjoyed it. The magic system was kind of nothing too special. I liked the romance. I really loved Khalid, who is like the main love interest. He was my favorite person out of everyone. I just loved him. The main character is 16, and I'm discovering as I read, as I continue to read young adult, and when I'm an adult now, it really, I don't know. Sometimes I connect with it and I'm fine. And like if they're 16 or 15, it doesn't bother me. But other times, it really just grates on something inside of me. And I think it has to do with how they're written. Like if they're 16, but they are really mature and they don't act 16, then I'm good. But I really got some 16-year-old vibes with the main character. And she kind of irked me at some points, and I felt kind of disconnected from her. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. You know, just another fantasy. Nothing too particularly mind-blowing, in my opinion. Okay, now the next book I'm kind of scared to talk about. And that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have wanted to read this for a long time. And finally, I was like, you know, I'm gonna want a break after my rereading Fawn. And I thought it was a good time to read it. Now, just a forewarning, spoiler alert, I don't think that was the right decision. I think I should have just continued. It'll make more sense in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Anywho, I really liked The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It follows a socialite, Evelyn Hugo, and she's like famous for having 7 husbands. And so it's told in like an interview, but not really interview. It's it's an interview as she's telling the story, but it's told from Evelyn. Like it's not told by the interviewer asking questions. Anywho, which I liked. Because Daisy Jones and the Six, which is the other book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, is told like, you know, name, colon, blah, blah, blah. It's told like an interview. Does this make any sense? No. I also really enjoyed, I loved Evelyn. She's such a confident, unapologetic badass, and I really appreciated it. I also loved Harry. If you've read this book, you know who I'm talking about. I just loved Harry. He was my favorite. And I loved the main romance. And I loved just seeing her life unfold. And the end, there is like a couple of big twists, one of which I knew about going into it. The other one I predicted like minutes before it unhappened, like it unfolded. I was like, oh god, this is what happened. And I was right. The writing, this is why I gave it a 4.5, because everyone I know has given it a 5 out of 5. The reason I gave it a 4.5 is there's something about her writing that I just really don't connect with personally. You know, like some writing you just love, you're falling into it, you think it's absolutely wonderful, and I just don't connect to it. And that was one of my problems with Daisy Jones and the Six, and it showed up again here. And I just, although the story was addicting and awesome and amazing, and I did fall into it, there's just something about her writing that I don't like. So that's why I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Did I sob incoherently like everyone else? Yes. I would recommend it? Yes, it's great. Everyone loves it. I do love it. But it wasn't an instant favorite. Now maybe if I reread it in the future during a better time, I might like it more then, but I can only rate it based off the experience I had. So that's why I gave it a 4.5. The next book I read was another ebook. That was The Inheritance Games. Yes, again, I've been wanting to read this for a while. It was very Knives Out. Like, if you've seen Knives Out or you've played Clue, that's what it is. Except there's teenagers involved and romance. So, yeah, I liked it. It was okay. Gave it a 4 out of 5. You know, the writing was better than I expected, but also at some points I was like, this is really cliche. The love triangle I could do without. I really enjoyed our main character. She was funny and witty, and I liked her. The plot twist took me by surprise. I wouldn't say it was suspenseful. Like, it's very much a YA mystery. It's not like spooky or, I mean, there's a mystery, but it's not scary or spooky. And I wouldn't say it's very suspenseful or intense is the word I'm looking for. But, you know, it's marketed as a YA thriller or YA mystery. So what was I expecting? Yeah, I liked it. And it did surprise me a couple of times. Yeah, I'll read the second one when it comes out. But again, I feel like, well, not again. I think it should have just been a standalone. Because when I saw that there was a second one, I was like, really? Really? So the last physical book I read was King of Scars. First book in the King of Scars duology. Rule of Wolves, which is the second one, came out this month. And I pre-ordered it. It's behind me. And I have never read King of Scars. Shocking, I know. And I did. And this is what I was talking about earlier with Evelyn. I thought it would be a good break to read that in between all of the rereading and this, and I was wrong. I should have just jumped right into this after Crooked Kingdom. It's all in the same universe, because it took me a while to get into Evelyn, and then it took me even longer to get into this. And it was an interesting reading experience because I haven't read a new Grisha verse book in so long. Like, probably 2019, I think, was when I first read Crooked Kingdom. Maybe it was last year. Oh God, that just seems wrong. Anywho, so it's been a while. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I kind of was. But maybe that was just because I love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom so much. I don't think anything would ever top it. And I know, like, that's like her best, and everything else just kind of but I still really enjoyed King of Scars. I love Nikolai. I love all the characters. It was surprising because I thought King of Scars took place chronologically between the end of Ruin and Rising and before the start of Six of Crows, and I was dead wrong. It takes place after Crooked Kingdom, which was a shock to the system. We got to relive some very painful emotions, and it made me cry, which I wasn't expecting. I was spoiled for a pretty big part of what happens in this, and so maybe that's why I wasn't fully, like, completely 110% invested from the beginning. Yeah, the politics in these kind of, I don't know, it's not my favorite thing. It's not my favorite plot line. But the characters more than make up for it. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. She's very beautiful. I'm reading Rule of Wolves right now. We'll see. I think I might have a full review on that book coming. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. The last book on this list is another ebook, and it is The Rose and the Dagger, which is the second book in the Wrath and the Dawn duology. This book wasn't as good as the first, in my opinion. I don't know. It felt like the pacing was a little weird, and the writing wasn't as good. Something about this author's writing style that I noted was she uses a lot of words, and like superfluous amounts of words, and it's very repetitive words too, and that kind of irked me a little bit. Just something about the writing style that I noted. I liked how it ended. I was like, okay. The epilogue was sweet. Yeah, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was, it is what it is. Yeah, I think I'm done with this video. Those were the 12 books I read in April. We'll see how many I get to in May. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, maybe possibly. I'll see you in a week. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day and or week, month, year. Yeah, thank you. What's my outro? Oh, peace out. Goodbye in the video.